So thank you for your presence once again, and thank you to your graces and your eminences for being here with us today. And we are now in the 6th session with a very dear topic to us, which is the life and works of Patriarch Sylvestros. Quite interesting and impressive testimony and witness of what was the spirit of Antioch during his period. Now we have very honorable guests with us and specialists in different fields regarding the topic of the life of Patriarch Sylvestros. Our first speaker is online. He's here. Is Professor Symeon Paschalidis. He is Professor of Patristics and Hagiography at the School of Social Theology and Christian Culture at the Faculty of Theology of the University of Thessaloniki, and Director of the Patriarchal Foundation for Patristic Studies in Vlatadon Monastery in Thessaloniki as well. He teaches also since last year at our institute. We are very glad to have him among us. And his speech is about a living saint of the church, Patriarch Sylvestros of Antioch, 1724-1766, and the signs of sanctity in his church ministry. Please, Professor Paschalidis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your eminences, your graces, Reverend Fathers, dear colleagues and participants to the present international conference organized by St. John of Damascus Institute of Theology at the University of Balamand. Let me congratulate first of all the scientific committee for organizing such a high-level conference, gathering together all the experts on special issues of the history of the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Antioch during the Ottoman era. And of course, to express my sincere thanks to the Dean of the Faculty of Theology, Father Zach Khalil, for his kind invitation to participate in it. I will share my screen for a small presentation. And now I believe that we are okay to that you can see also the PowerPoint of my presentation. Patriarch Sylvestros of Antioch, Al-Kubrusi, is one of the most important ecclesiastical figures of the 18th century, which was critical for the survival of the Orthodox populations in the Christian East, and one of the longest-lasting patriarchs of the Antiochian throne, since his patriarchate lasted 42 years, for 1724 to 1766. It is noteworthy that his long patriarchal ministry is characterized by his unceasing pastoral concern in a multidimensional environment that was hostile to the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Antioch, according to the confession of his contemporaries, historians, and more recent scholars of his work, as one of the most virtuous and prudent patriarchs, not only of the Patriarchate of Antioch, but of the whole Orthodox Church of that period. It is particularly characteristic that his contemporary, the scholar and one of his contemporaries, the scholar and Athonite monk Kesarios Dapontes, a man of historical sharpness and particular ecclesiastical sensitivity, who knew him, calls him a living saint of the church and a jewel of the hierarchy of his time, while his patriarchy is called by scholars of his patriarchal pastorate a martyrdom. In our paper, we will present on the basis of both contemporary sources and later judgments on the person and ecclesiastical work of Sylvestros, his episcopal holiness, as it is confessed and projected through the sources, and the co-examination of his pastoral work with the established in the Orthodox tradition presumptions of holiness of the holy bishops. In church history, we know that after the apostles and the martyrs, The bishops were the ones who were held up as models of the Christian faith from the first centuries, since they were called not only to ensure the apostolic orthodoxy, it is the teaching of the apostles, as Clement of Alexandria aptly calls it, but also to continue the apostolic work, extending the horizon of the Christian mission and establishing ecclesial communities throughout the Roman world, the Roman ecumeny. Within this framework, the main criterion for the holiness of the bishops was their systematic teaching work, their apostolic spirit, as well as the constant and unswerving concern for the protection of the faith and the uninterrupted course of the church in the historical events of their times, which is attested to by their confession of their Orthodox faith, their struggle against heresies, and very often their personal exile, elements which in many cases reveal their martyrical phronema. Besides, nearly 50 martyr bishops are recorded in the Byzantine calendar. And it is characteristic that St. John Chrysostom calls St. Eustathius of Antioch also as a martyr, clarifying to his listeners that, to his flock, that I have often said to you that it is not death alone that makes a martyr, but also someone's strong intention, prothesis, voulisis. Moreover, these elements made them models of pastoral ministry for the other bishops, as St. John Chrysostom again underlines in his encomiastic homily on St. Meletius of Antioch. It's this passage, you can see it here in the Greek text and the English translation. St. John Chrysostom says that summoned for another reason, the bishops who administered the churches all over the world were in attendance and watched that holy man. He is referring to St. Meletius of Antioch. And when they watched and got to know every detail of his discretion, his wisdom, his enthusiasm for the faith, that every virtue appropriate to a priest was perfected in him, it was then that God summoned him to himself. The case of Patriarch Sylvestros confirms mutatis mutandis the above criteria, as we will soon demonstrate in the following through the testimonies of his contemporary historians and other authors, in conjunction with the archival and other evidence of his time, which have emerged both earlier through the publication of several of his epistles, his letters, and more recently through the research of colleagues who participate in the present conference and who have been able to find these new testimonies in the archives of the Ottoman state and in the old prints of the Christian printing houses of the Danubian principalities. The earliest reference which inspired the title of our paper is found in the two-volume work Kathreptis Gynekon, The Mirror of Women, by the most prominent 18th century scholar and Athonite, to whom already we have referred, the Athonite monk Caesarius da Pontes, who during his previous turbulent life and the dramatic period of his 20-month imprisonment in Constantinople in 1747 to 48, had met and been benefited by Patriarch Sylvestros, who had even contributed to da Pontes' marriage in November 1749. In the Kathreptis Gynekon, The Mirror of Women, published in 1766, but we know that it was written by da Pontes between 1748, while he was still imprisoned in Constantinople, and 1753, when, after the death of his wife and his young daughter from a plague epidemic, he became a monk. Caesarius poetically depicts the ecclesiastical and hagiographical image of Patriarch Sylvestros, pointing out his ecclesiastical charisma, even in church music and iconography, on the basis of the holy icons of the Virgin Mary and Holy Mandilium, painted by Silvestros himself and being in the possession of the Pontes. And here you can see in this slide this passage, the Greek original text, which is referring to the Patriarch Sylvestros from the third line onwards, from the second line onwards, καθώς και ο κύρ Σίλβεστρος ο της Αντιοχίας, and also the Patriarch Sylvestros of Antioch told me, and he assured me that that I will tell you, and he is a most holy man, as you and all of us know. He is known and very famous in every land and every city. Τον ξεύρουσιν ως ακουστών εν πάση πόλη, that he is Agios, he is a saint, even living in our times in the church, and that he is the flower and the jewelry of the present hierarchy, the hierarchs of the Orthodox Church. And of course, there is also an additional reference to his ability as a painter of holy icons, and of course of his chanting ability, which is also related both to his life in Mount Athos as an Athonite monk before he became a bishop, and also with his life in the Patriarchate of Antioch in Aleppo, where there was also a chanting school, as we know. So this is the first and more significant reference about the sanctity, the living sanctity of Patriarch Sylvestros of Antioch. Caesarius the Pontes will later come back to the person of Silvestros, dedicating a particularly interesting, extensive entry to him in his great prosopographical work that is called Κατάλογος Ιστορικός Αξιόλογος των καθημάς χρηματισάντων επισήμων Ρωμαίων, in translation, a valuable historical catalog about the most important and official room. The term Romeos or room, which was used, as we all know, during all that period of the Ottoman era, and for which term we had also a discussion yesterday in the evening session. So in this historical catalog, which is dated in 1784, we can find in the part about the Patriarchs of Antioch, as you can see here, Patriarche Antiochias, large, an extant entry about Silvestros. Silvestros, the successor of Athanasius III, Abbas, who came from Cyprus, virtuous, kind, a painter, died in his see. May his memory live forever. He had come to Iași for alms in the days of my Lord Ioan Voivod, Mavrocordat, and he preached in churches and served the divine liturgy in Arabic, for he knew how to serve the Arabic language. And he also printed the divine liturgy in Arabic, Greek in Iași, and he also printed Adimintia too. And I took and I thank Mrs. Feodorov for the translation of this text. It is characteristic that while for the other patriarchs, the Pontes devotes only one line, for Silvestros he provides detailed information about his journey to Iași in 1741 during the principality of Ioannis John Mavrocordatos, and above all about his important pastoral and liturgical work, inspired by his pastoral sensitivity for his Arab-speaking flock. He practiced teaching in church congregations, he served in the Arabic language, and in addition, he printed the classic liturgical book of the Holy Liturgy, which contained the 3 divine liturgies in Arabic and in Greek at the printing press of Iași in 1745, as well as Antimencia. The Pontes will return later in the same work, his historical catalogue, to the figure of Silvestros, referring to the icon of the Virgin Mary, the so-called, you can see the original passage here, η Αγία εικόν της Παναγίας μου, η Μοσκόβικη, so that the holy icon of the Virgin Mary, the so-called Muscovite, as he notes, which was together with the icon of Holy Mandilion in the monastery of Annunciation, which belonged to the Pontes family. It is called Patrogonikon Monasterion. It was constructed, it was founded by his father Stephanos the Pontes, and it belonged to the Pontes family. We have this tradition very well known during the Ottoman period in many of the Greek islands. And we know that the Pontes came from the Skopelos island, not far away in Thessaly, not far away from Thessaloniki. So in another chapter in his historical catalogue, where reference is made to the Wallachian prince Nikolaos Mavrokordatos, the Pontes will also add a remarkable reference to the construction of the monastery of St. Spiridon in Bucharest and its dedication by the Wallachian prince Constantine Mavrokordatos, the son of Nicholas Mavrokordatos, to the Patriarchate of Antioch, for, in quotes, for his reference and love in favorite of the Patriarch Sylvestros of Antioch. This is the exact reference of the Pontes. Έκτισε δε και το εις Βουκουρέστη ιερών μοναστήριων του Αγίου Σπυρίδωνος, αφιερώσας αυτό εις τον της Αντιοχίας θρόνων, δια την προς τον Σίλβεστρον Αντιοχίας ευλάβιαν και αγάπην, ο οποίος από το Iași υπήγεν εις Βουκουρέστη. Extensive references to the figure, to the person and to the work of Patriarch Sylvestros are also dedicated by the scholar, a very eminent scholar of the second half of the 18th century, and also the famous director of the Patriarchal Academy in Constantinople, Sergios Makreos, who wrote a particularly student of Eugenius Vulgaris in the Athonias Academy, who wrote a particularly interesting historical work under the title Υπομνήματα Εκκλησιαστικής Ιστορίας, Memories of Church History, covering the second half of the 18th century, starting with his report of the controversy about the rebaptism of Catholics coming to the Orthodox and who wanted to return to the Orthodox Church, and the treatment of the methods of the papal missionaries in the East who have been in Egypt and Syria in their own pits from the beginning until the middle of the present century. In this slide, you can see some passages of the extant references made by Sergios Makreos in his historical work, referring exactly to the Patriarch Sylvestros of Antioch. Makreos will then emphasize that against the ill-omened invasion against the numerous Orthodox Christians, his beatitude, the Pope and Patriarch of Alexandria, Mattheos, he's a very well-known and very active Patriarch during the same period when Silvestros became Patriarch of Antioch, the Patriarch Mattheos, who came from Andros Island. And his beatitude, the Patriarch of Antioch Silvestros, did many things to prevent their own flocks from being lost, but they also suffered themselves very much by the missionaries, but both of them broke up the ill-conceived communion, this ill-conceived communion. He even uses for Aleppo the ancient name of the city, Halivona, referring in detail to the methods of the missionaries in the Syrian region, and testifies to Silvestros' repeated efforts to restore to Orthodoxy the Christian flock of Aleppo, and to the methodical transfer from the Patriarchate of Jerusalem and the election of Sophronius, who was Metropolitan of Ptolemais in the Patriarchate of Jerusalem, as Metropolitan of Aleppo, the well-known Sophronius II, who became after some years Patriarch of Jerusalem, and after that Patriarch of Constantinople. Silvestros is characterized by Macreos as an exceptional pastor who fought nobly and with exemplary zeal for the salvation of his flock, reaching even to the long overdue request and assignment of the protection of the Metropolitan throne of Aleppo by the Holy Synod of the Ecumenical Patriarchate, an act that led to the election as Metropolitan of Aleppo of the great Arch-Chancellor Philemon. In fact, Macreos does not hesitate even later to refer to the memory of Patriarch Sylvestros as having departed to the Lord in many of his struggles for the truth, being zealous for the Orthodox faith during his patriarchate. Similar judgments, these are two other extant references to the struggle of Patriarch Sylvestros against the missionaries, the papal missionaries, during his patriarchate. And we have a not so extant, but it is a large entry about the same events expressed in a more concise manner by his contemporary historian Athanasios Komninos Ypsilantis in his work Τα μετά την άλωσιν, so that the events after the fall of Constantinople. Summing up, we can point out three main points that highlight through the sources we have briefly presented the hagiographical image of Patriarch Sylvestros as it is implied or explicitly confessed by the characterizations used by his contemporaries, but also the impact of his figure and his pastoral work as it is reflected in later works. First, his struggle for the Orthodox identity of the Patriarchate of Antioch, and second, his struggle against Latin conversion made by papal missionaries. Silvestros ascended in 1724 to the patriarchal throne of Antioch at a time of extreme difficulty for Orthodoxy in Syria, which was in danger of collapse due to the actions of the Uniates, which intensified after Rome's recognition of the Patriarchate of the Greek Catholics of Antioch. It is characteristic that in all the historical writers and the reports of that period, the conversion activity of the papal missionaries in the East, and especially in the regions of Syria, Palestine, and Egypt, is recorded with particularly heavy characterizations, an element that demonstrates the critical condition of these systematic methods, for which significant efforts were made by Western diplomats as well, such as the French ambassadors, as we well know, for the Greek Orthodox Patriarchates of the East and the Orthodox Christian populations there, who were under pressure from all sides to convert directly or indirectly to Catholicism. In fact, a native of Aleppo, the later Patriarch of Jerusalem and later Ecumenical Patriarch Sophronius II, to whom we already referred, to whom Silvestros, the Patriarch Sylvestros, entrusted the administration of the metropolis of Aleppo at an extremely critical period, will use extremely harsh language against the missionaries because of their systematic and deceitful actions to convert Orthodox Christians to apostasy, as they characteristically noted, and the intolerable situation they had created, influencing the local rulers to the detriment of the functioning of the local Orthodox communities. And we can find such harsh references in neo-martyrological texts, a martyrdom written by him and in collaboration with Kesarios da Pontes about the new martyr, neo-martyras, John the Cypriot, where he uses all these heavy references to the papal missionaries. There is even special mention in the sources of the sufferings which Sophronius suffered in Aleppo because of his actions, the actions of the papists there, while his actions are also praised by Silvestros, who not only sent him to act as his representative, but also to act as a representative by the Patriarch Cyril the Fifth to free Aleppo from the oppressions of the papists, as characteristically noted in a study written by the late Metropolitan Gennadius of Iliopolis.
Professor Paschalidis, a kind reminder, if I may, 2 minutes left.
Yes, I'm finishing my paper. Thank you very much. Thirdly, his pastoral work. Apart from the above, Silvestros engaged in a systematic work of spiritual edification of the Orthodox of the Patriarchate of Antioch, and despite the extremely hostile conditions, he succeeded with continuous travels to Constantinople and to many cities in all the Ottoman Empire, and of course to the Danubian principalities, to gather the necessary financial resources which allowed him to support the Arab-speaking Christians in the Orthodox faith. To this end, he built churches, ordained new priests, founded a school in Aleppo to produce educated clergymen, Orthodox clergymen, and adequately staff of the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Antioch. He also published liturgical and other books in Arabic and in Greek language, and he reopened in Beirut the printing press established by his predecessor and uncle Athanasius Abbas in Aleppo. To the above, we could also add the ascetic ethos of Silvestros, a distinctive feature of his life, obviously related to his earlier Athonite period of his life. Concluding our presentation, we will return to the seemingly strange and unique in his work characterization that the Pontes uses for Silvestros as a living saint. Although not lacking some hagiographical allusions in his other works as well, the characterization that the Pontes uses for the Patriarch Sylvestros, promoting his holiness while he was still alive, is particularly striking, a fact which has no parallel in the period of the Ottoman occupation, but only in the early Byzantine period, when the Christians painted icons and honored as saints the two homonymous saints, Symeon the Elder and Symeon the Younger, the Stylites, as well as Theodore Sikeotis, being still alive. A promotion that went along with what has been pointed out, that Patriarch Sylvestros during his patriarchate has shown zealousy, perseverance, activity, prudence, and skill in his actions, which have made him one of the most important patriarchs of the patriarchal throne of Antioch in his times, and proved, in the words of the Patriarch Constantius II of Constantinople, his patriarchate as belonging to a martyr, following the martyr example of the holy bishops of the ancient church. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Paschalidis, for presenting for this very precise and thoroughful presentation about the sanctity in the deeds and the person of Patriarch Sylvestros as a painter, as a chanter, and above all, about his life as a bishop and a patriarch, and for sharing with us the sources about this information. So now the floor is open for questions, please. So, Father the Dean Jack.
I would like first to thank Professor Paschalidis for his research that he undertook since the last year. And as he is an authority, actually, this is well known, an authority in matters of announcing saints and the criteria, Orthodox criteria for the announcement of new saints, I would like to ask him the following. Of course, we spoke now about Saint Silvestros. In your opinion, all these criteria, it was clear that there are enough criteria. Your conviction was clear to us, you transmitted this to us, that there are enough criteria to proceed into further study. And we thank you for this really very interesting presentation and the information that we didn't know about aspects of his life and his works. I have a question which is now very specific. We heard previously in the previous session that the Patriarch Macarius ibn Zaim spoke about his predecessor, Patriarch Ephthemius, and he said clearly that his Anagis Patir Imon, and he described also miracles that happened after his death. And he ended his writing by saying, through his intercessions, may Christ our Lord have mercy on us. Now, in this case, when a Patriarch of Antioch says this following, can we consider this declaration an official, solemn declaration of the holiness of some person, or it still needs some action? Thank you.
And thank you very much, Father Jack, once again for your kind invitation, your love, our collaboration in the Faculty of Theology of St. John of Damascus. And thank you for the question. You give me the opportunity to clarify that relating to these references about the sanctity of some bishops. Of course, this is why I tried to connect Silvestros times with the early period of the church, the first centuries, the times of St. John Chrysostom, in the same region, in the region of Antioch and of the Patriarchate of Antioch, where also St. John Chrysostom lived, and some very important figures who are, as we all know, are venerated as saints, some holy bishops, such as Saint Eustatius of Antioch or Saint Melesius of Antioch. And reading the sources, the patristic texts, we can find that especially this the feeling of giving this testimony of faith, this witness of faith to the faithful and unfaithful people of their times was the most important thing for someone, for a bishop, to be venerated as a saint. That means as a saint. What does that mean? That means as an example, as a role model for the later bishops who would find in his figure and the time and the way he acted his pastoral in his pastoral mission with this same phronema of martyrdom, the same phronema that the early martyrs, Christian martyrs, had. And I think that I tried to show that the case of Silvestros, and of course not only the case of Patriarch Sylvestros, but also and other cases, as you noted, have this we can find many parallel elements relating to their times. This very difficult period of the Ottoman centuries, from the early Ottoman period to the later centuries, with all that the early bishops of the church had to face relating to the persecutions and to the pagan populations or the pagan rulers of the regions who also persecuted the church, or persecuted, of course, first of all, the bishops and the clergymen of its local church. So I believe that all these references, this reference among the saints, an Ayuch, or a living saint, are a kind of an official recognition. Of course, maybe in our days we need to refresh this kind of recognition with a more official act, a synodical and patriarchal act taken by the Holy Synod. And I'm very happy that His Beatitude, Patriarch of Antioch and all East, Mr. John will, and the Holy Synod of the Patriarchate of Antioch will proceed in such an official recognition in the next synodical, in the next synod, congregation of the Holy Synod, because it's, I think that the most important is for the Orthodox bishops was to present new saints, and from all the classes, all the parts of the Christian churches, not only bishops, not only martyrs, not only monks, not only lay Christians, but from all these categories of Christians, to use them and to work as an exemplar to the following Christians, the Christians of the following centuries.
Thank you, Professor. We are running really short of time, but His Eminence Bishop Nicholas from Hama has a question, a last question.
السؤال هو هل ردة الفعل العنيفة للبطريرك سيلفستروس في حادثة حلب واللي أدت إلى نتائج كارثية تعتبر أيضا وعندما ندرس معايير القداسة؟
No, I didn't concentrate to translate. Did they translate the question to you? No?
Yes, because I just now I turned to the translation. If it's possible.
Could please the translation be repeated to Professor?
Sorry. Okay. Could I listen the English? Yes, thank you.
I was not attending. Do you have the? No, I was not attending. I don't know what was said because I.
السؤال
Yes.
هل ردة فعل العنيفة للبطرك سيلفستروس في حادثة حلب هي تؤخذ في معايير اللي أدت إلى نتائج عنيفة على الكنيسة تؤخذ في هذه المعايير القداسية؟
Okay. His question is if the violent reactions that he had as a bishop of Aleppo against him, are they considered as parameters for his sanctity as well?
Special criterion for his sanctity. Thank you, Your Eminence. I will answer very shortly because this issue, the way Patriarch Sylvestros reacted to what was happening in Aleppo, because he had to face. I have reverse of the sound. Okay. It's a very important issue of the history of the Patriarchate of Antioch at that period. But we have no reference, special reference only to that, but to his efforts, of course, to his efforts to face the serious problems that the papal missionaries caused to the Orthodox Christians of Aleppo, because it was, let me say, a kind of a vulnerable community, and relating to what had happened even before Silvestros became a patriarch of Antioch. So this very critical and very difficult situation, he was called. He was obliged to face this very difficult condition, and this is why, despite all his efforts, as we know, and relating to the assistance of the patriarchs of Constantinople, or to his relations with some Ottoman officials as well, he was obliged finally to ask for the help even from the Patriarchate of Constantinople and of the Patriarchate of Jerusalem as well. We know that at that time, all the Greek Orthodox Patriarchates reacted in the same way, and the patriarchs also were in total concordance about the way they had to react to the papal against the papal missionaries and the conversion, the efforts of conversion of the Orthodox population. So, of course, it's an important parameter of his pastoral ministry, this issue, this historical issue. But of course, it is, let me say, it is incorporated in his whole pastoral ministry, because we have to face it in total.
Thank you very much, Professor Paschalidis. And now we move on to our second presentation. Now is with us Archimandrite Dr. Policarp Chitulescu. He's an Archimandrite at the monastery of Radu Voda in Bucharest, a patriarchal counselor, director of the Library of the Holy Synod. He holds a PhD in theology on Christian literature, and he's a specialist in bibliophilia and rare books. He's going to present to us a work about Patriarch Sylvestros of Antioch as a defender of Orthodoxy, a survey of his anti-Catholic books printed in Iași, Moldavia in the mid-18th century. Thank you, Father Policarp, for being with us, and please, the floor is yours.
Vos éminences, vos excellences, très révérend Père le Doyen, très révérend Père, mesdames et messieurs, شكرا جزيلا لدعوة لهذا المؤتمر. أنا سعيد جدا أن أكون معكم اليوم. Donc, bien sûr, cette recherche fait partie d'un projet financé par le Conseil européen pour la recherche, par le programme de l'Union européenne pour la recherche et l'innovation Horizon 2020. Et à ce message, j'ajoute aussi des vifs remerciements à Madame Ioana Feodorov, Yulia Petrova et Père Charbel Nassif qui m'ont aidé avec la transcription et la traduction des textes arabes, très importante pour moi. Mon titre a été légèrement adapté grâce aux nouvelles découvertes concernant les livres imprimés par le patriarche Sylvestre d'Antioche, pas seulement en Moldavie, mais aussi en Valachi aussi. Donc, mon texte vient de s'ajouter à le refaire, à connaître mieux le portrait du patriarche Sylvestre dans Sainte, je considère. Le nouveau pouvoir ottoman instauré dans l'ancien empire byzantin après la chute de Constantinople en 1453 a eu une influence considérable sur la vie de l'Église orthodoxe, c'est-à-dire des patriarcats apostoliques et des autres structures ecclésiastiques qui leur étaient subordonnées, respectivement l'Église orthodoxe des Balkans. En même temps, les attaques, l'hostilité des autorités du nouveau régime politique religieux musulman ainsi que le prosélytisme latin ont eu pour résultat un plus grand rapprochement et une collaboration plus étroite entre les patriarcats orientaux et les églises orthodoxes locales dans leurs efforts communs de résister dans le nouveau contexte. Un des moments les plus difficiles de la vie de l'église d'Antioche, c'est la création en 1724 d'une structure ecclésiale unie à Rome. Il est même surprenant qu'Antioche pût résister tant d'années, puisque l'uniatisme était déjà intervenu dans la vie des églises européennes bien auparavant, preuve l'union de Brest-Litovsk de 1596. Quant au pays roumain, les principautés danubiennes, ce n'est que le cas de la province de la Transylvanie qui faisait partie de l'empire des Habsbourg et en tant que tel fut forcé de passer partiellement à l'uniatisme en 1699 et 1701. Cette rupture créée au sein des communautés orthodoxes du Proche-Orient, des Balkans et d'autres parties du monde a divisé les chrétiens et les a rendus plus vulnérables aux attaques extérieures, le comble de ce désastre étant l'apparition du protestantisme. Dans ce contexte, les patriarches et les hommes de culture grecque et arabe ont trouvé un puissant appui aux principautés danubiennes qui bénéficiaient d'un statut spécial au sein de l'Empire ottoman, faisant partie de la Maison de la Paix. Le bras de Rome ne pouvait pas atteindre ces riches principautés danubiennes, la Valachie et la Moldavie, gouvernées par des princes d'une grande piété et d'une foi fervente, toujours disponibles à protéger l'orthodoxie à travers le monde. Les actes de bienfaisance des princes roumains qui ont fondé des églises dans toute la réelle orthodoxe, ainsi que dans des écoles et des typographies en roumain, en grec, arabe, géorgien et slavon, ont fait de généreuses donations en argent et objets de culte, ont dédié des monastères et des églises au patriarcat apostolique, en ce cas l'Antioche, furent tout autant des preuves d'une communion fraternelle que seuls les empereurs byzantins eussent manifesté jusqu'alors. On doit bien souligner un fait qui nous invite aujourd'hui à méditer. Ce qui unissait les Arabes, les Roumains, les Grecs, les Géorgiens, les Slaves, etc., c'était leur appartenance à l'orthodoxie, leur foi inébranlable en Christ, le Fils de Dieu incarné, crucifié et ressuscité par amour des hommes. À cette époque-là, entre les chrétiens qui s'entraidaient sans réserve, n'étaient pas encore intervenues les frontières ethniques imposées par la pensée moderne. Le patriarche Sylvestre d'Antioche et de tout l'Orient étant des coryphées de la lutte de sauvegarde de la foi orthodoxe parmi les chrétiens d'Antioche. Afin de mieux comprendre ces démarches missionnaires, rappelons quelques événements qui ont marqué son activité pastorale, notamment à ses débuts. Son martyre avait commencé dès son élection en tant que patriarche, survenu à Constantinople en septembre 1724, car en ce moment-là, son siège était usurpé par un patriarche uni à Rome, Cyril Tanas. Rappelons qu'avant l'élection de Sylvestre et tout juste après son installation à Constantinople, avait eu lieu entre 1702, 23 et 27, quelques conciles pour débattre la situation des chrétiens orthodoxes d'Antioche que le patriarche Athanas d'Abbas avait réclamé au patriarche Chrysanthe de Jérusalem et à Jérémie III, patriarche œcuménique. Le patriarcat œcuménique et les autres patriarches orientaux se sont prononcés contre les chrétiens d'Antioche qui avaient accepté de s'unir à Rome. À cette occasion, le concile de la capitale de l'Empire ottoman leur envoya une lettre de remontrance, rédigeant également un document qui combattait les principales erreurs dogmatiques des latins. Le dernier acte, émis en décembre 1724, incluait la déposition du patriarche philo-latin d'Antioche, Kyrillos Tanas, qui était soumis à Rome. Les décisions de ces conciles de Constantinople furent traduites en arabe par le patriarche Athanas d'Abbas et publiée plus tard en 1747 par le patriarche Sylvestre à Bucharest en Valachie. Après un bref séjour sur le trône patriarcal, Kyrillos Stanas fut destitué et le pacha local ordonna son arrestation comme usurpateur. Apprenant la décision des autorités ottomanes, Kyrillos Stanas s'empara des biens patriarcaux de Damas et se réfugia au monastère de Saint-Jean-Baptiste au Choueir, en Liban. Je me suis servi ici de très bons livres du professeur Pacheco. Une fois sa place recouverte, le patriarche Sylvestre essaya de cultiver la conscience orthodoxe en faisant appel à un savant, Jacques de Patmos, qui ouvrit une école à Alep en août 1726, mais à cause des interventions des uniates auprès des autorités ottomanes locales, l'école fut fermée en 1721 et Jacques arrêté. L'école fut transférée à Tripoli la même année, puis à Damas en 1733, mais là-bas, l'influence des jésuites était très grande. Chicané en permanence, Jacques de Patmos quitta la Syrie en 1735. En août 1726, Sylvestre fut agressé par un groupe d'uniates et il ne put s'échapper à cette attaque qu'en plongeant dans une rivière. Après cet épisode, il se réfugia pour quelque temps à Constantinople. Il est à préciser que le patriarche était privé de tout appui politique tant à Constantinople qu'en Syrie, à cause de la forte influence des ambassadeurs, surtout français, hostiles aux orthodoxes. C'est dans ce contexte plein d'incertitudes et d'insécurité que le patriarche Sylvestre commença à visiter les princes des principautés danubiennes, la Valachie et la Moldavie. Il paraît que son premier contact avec ces contrées eut lieu en 1728, lorsqu'il vint en Valachie et y resta 6 années, avec quelques interruptions jusqu'en 1734. Ici régnait le grand prince fidèle à l'orthodoxie. Non, je vais le montrer. Merci. Ici régnait le grand prince fidèle à l'orthodoxie, Nicolaos Mavrocordatos, succédé par son fils Constantin Mavrocordatos et par Grégoire II Gica. En 1735, le patriarche Sylvestre revint, paraît-il, en Valachie. Dans la période qui a suivi, les uniates avaient à Alep une église autonome, ce qui créa bien de difficultés aux orthodoxes, contraintes de quitter la ville. Après avoir envoyé en Valachie en 1744 son ouaki, Michel Touma, chercher de l'aide financière, au mois de mai de la même année, Sylvestre se rendit lui-même aussi en Moldavie à Iași. Immédiatement après son départ, il fut de nouveau détrôné par Kyrillos, qui avait reçu entre-temps le pallium de la part du pape pour sa soumission au dogme catholique romain. Le 21 juillet 1745, le représentant du patriarche usurpateur vint à Damas et occupa la résidence patriarcale. Le pacha ordonna que les églises soient remises à Kyrillos et fit jeter en prison le représentant de Sylvestre. Bien plus, Kyrillos se rendit aussi à Beyrouth, où il confisqua les églises des orthodoxes et consacra un évêque uniate Théodose. Les autres évêques syriens demandèrent de l'aide à Constantinople, sollicitant le retour immédiat de Sylvestre. En cette année si compliquée, 1745, Sylvestre se trouvait en Moldavie, veillant à l'apparition du premier hiérarchon orthodoxe édité exclusivement en arabe. Il se rendit en tout temps à Constantinople, où, suite aux interventions auprès du sultan, le décret de reconnaissance de Kyrillos Stanas, le patriarche unite, fut annulé et le patriarche Sylvestre reconfirmé de nouveau dans son siège. Kyrillos Stanas et son évêque Théodose se réfugièrent au mont Liban sous la protection de l'émir du Liban, tandis que le représentant de Cyril à Damas fut jeté en prison avec tout le clergé uniate. En 1746, vint à Damas le représentant de Sylvestre, le métropolite Nicéphore, avec le décret du sultan qui disposait que tous les uniates reviennent à l'orthodoxie. Le patriarche Sylvestre a dépensé d'immenses sommes d'argent pour obtenir l'abrogation de l'autonomie des uniates d'Alep à l'égard du patriarcat d'Antioche. Ces luttes entre les orthodoxes et les uniates ont continué jusqu'à la mort de Sylvestre survenue en 1766. Ce que nous avons montré ici représente en bref le contexte dans lequel Sylvestre éprouva le besoin d'éditer des livres qui affermissaient la conscience et l'enseignement orthodoxe par les prêtres et les fidèles. Lors de sa seconde déposition, moment de dure épreuve et d'amertume, il avait trouvé un appui fraternel chez le fils du prince Nicolas Mavrocordatos, Constantin chez le fils du prince Nicolaos Mavrocordatos, Constantin et Ioan, qui régnaient l'un en Valachie et l'autre en Moldavie. Tout d'abord, en 1744, Sylvestre installa au monastère de Saint-Sabah de Iași, où il était logé, une typographie à caractère arabe, où devaient paraître entre 1745 et 47 plusieurs livres, dont seulement un de culte, les articles, les liturgies, les autres étant des traités d'apologétique et des réponses aux défis dogmatiques des missionnaires latins qui agissaient alors au Levant. Il est à mentionner que les missionnaires européens avaient traduit en arabe un corpus important d'ouvrages de littérature de propagande, le principal personnage de cette opération étant le jésuite Pierre Fromage, qui est mort à Alep. Initialement missionnaire en Égypte, puis établi en Syrie. À l'époque, outre les livres orthodoxes imprimés, circulaient certes en manuscrit, comme le père Ibrahim nous a déjà montré, circulaient en manuscrit d'autres ouvrages orthodoxes en arabe qui polémisaient avec ceux de latin. Mentionnons qu'à cette période de grandes difficultés financières pour le patriarcat d'Antioch, le 8 décembre 1746, le prince de Valachie, Constantin Mavrocordatos, dédia au patriarcat d'Antioch l'important monastère du Saint-Hiérarque Spiridon de Trimitonde de Bucharest. Dans la polémique avec les latins, les auteurs dont Sylvestre s'est servi pour exprimer la position orthodoxe furent Nectarios, patriarche de Jérusalem, qui s'est confronté lui-même à la propagande latine en Terre Sainte au XVIIe siècle, et l'érudit docteur Eustratius Argentis. À cette occasion, quelques-uns des principaux ouvrages des deux auteurs mentionnés furent édités pour la première fois en Moldavie en arabe en 1746 et 7. Les textes édités à Iași représentent des traductions du grec et du latin en arabe faites par le patriarche Sylvestre, par Sophron de Kilis, futur patriarche de Jérusalem et puis de Constantinople, et par Mus'ab Nashu de Damas. C'est de ces écrits édités par les soins du patriarche Sylvestre en Moldavie et aussi en Valachie que nous voulons discuter en ce qui suit. De la venue des latins en Orient, on a écrit beaucoup, plus que des efforts et des sacrifices des orthodoxes pour leur résister. C'est justement pour cette raison que nous devons connaître la méthode de cultiver la conscience orthodoxe et de sauvegarder les vérités apostoliques par l'édition de livres, chose pas du tout facile. La typographie à caractère arabe, qui est éditée en arabe, était quelque chose d'impossible pour les orthodoxes arabes jusqu'à l'apparition des typographies arabes aux principautés danubiennes au début du XVIIIe siècle. Cela ne pouvait paraître comme tel qu'au latin, qui avait depuis le XVIe siècle des typographies destinées à la propagande catholique en Orient. Donc, le patriarche crétois Nectarios de Jérusalem, moine sinaïte et nouveau fondateur de nombreux lieux de culte en Terre Sainte, fut l'un des plus grands savants de son époque. Il visita plusieurs reprises les pays roumains. C'est ce que nous apprend le patriarche de Cité de Jérusalem, son successeur, qui mentionne que Nectarios s'était rendu 3 fois en Moldavie au temps du prince Basile Lupu, lorsqu'il n'était pas encore patriarche de Jérusalem. Après son avènement au siège du patriarcat apostolique de Jérusalem en 1661, Nectarios revint en Moldavie en 1664, au temps du règne de Stratius d'Abija. Le haut hiérarque fut un écrivain prolifique dans le domaine de l'histoire de l'Église et un grand apologète de l'orthodoxie. Comme nous allons voir, ses principales œuvres ont été publiées au pays roumain où, grâce à l'aide des princes roumains, vu qu'à la censure pontificale n'avait aucun pouvoir dans ce territoire. Il est à croire qu'aucun autre apologète de cette époque-là n'eût bénéficié comme lui de la traduction de ses écrits du grec en latin, en arabe et en roumain. D'ailleurs, quelques-unes de ses œuvres étaient considérées à l'époque les meilleures du genre. En Valachie, il visita le prince Antoine Rousset dans une période où il n'était plus patriarche, mais s'occupait de la publication de ses œuvres. Le domaine où le patriarche Nectarios excellait, c'était l'apologétique orthodoxe, la sauvegarde des dogmes de l'Église de l'Orient, attaqués et injustement contestés par les missionnaires catholiques. Comme les patriarches antiochiens et les autres archipasteurs orthodoxes, il s'est confronté lui aussi dans la communauté qu'il guidait pastoralement aux interventions des messagers du pape qui cherchaient à soustraire ses ouailles à la juridiction orthodoxe dont il dépendait et à les faire entrer sous la juridiction du pape. Même si une bonne partie de ces écrits fussent restés en manuscrit, certains des plus importants ont été publiés. La première œuvre anticatholique du patriarche Nectarios a ouvert en 1682 l'activité typographique de l'imprimerie grecque de Iași, en Moldavie, fondée par le patriarche de Cité de Jérusalem en 1680. Le tome in folio intitulé Réfutation de la suprématie du pape, etc., tel que son titre le montre, a été conçu comme une réponse au moine franciscain Pierre, un missionnaire latin représentant des frères de Jérusalem, et combat la prétention du pape d'étendre son autorité sur toute la chrétienté. On y trouve résumés tous les arguments orthodoxes contre le primat papal et constitue ainsi la principale source des orthodoxes dans leur lutte contre la papauté. L'ouvrage a été traduit en latin par Pierre Alix et publié à Londres en 1702 sous le titre Tupanu Chir Nectarii Patriarche Hierosolimitani Confutatio Imperii Papei in Ecclesia. Le dominicain Michel de Lequian a composé sous le pseudonyme Stéphanos de Altimura un ouvrage pour combattre le livre du patriarche Nectarios intitulé Panoplia contra Schisma Grecorum, etc., publié à Paris en 1718. Un autre ouvrage du patriarche Nectarios, d'après le manuscrit grec autographe de l'auteur, a été publié en latin en 1729 à Londres, où n'existait pas la censure papale. Ce livre avait comme titre aussi, il comprend le nom du patriarche, écrit en latin, et publié aussi donc à Paris. De la traduction en arabe des écrits du patriarche, on n'en savait pas beaucoup de choses. C'est une raison de plus de tirer de l'oubli le rôle de ce grand patriarche dans la sauvegarde de l'orthodoxie. Dans notre cas, Nectarios de Jérusalem comme auteur et Sylvestre d'Antioche comme initiateur de l'édition. Le cœur plein d'amertume, Sylvestre ne réussit qu'à grande peine à imprimer à Iași en 1746 un nouvel écrit du patriarche Nectarios intitulé « Le livre sur le règne de la justice et la transmission de la vérité », écrit par le vertueux père et le parfait et très sage philosophe Kyriou-Kyr Nectarios, le bienheureux patriarche de Jérusalem, comme réponse aux moines latins envoyés dans les contrées de l'Orient et installés en Terre Sainte, qui ont fait tout ce qui était en leur pouvoir pour dénaturer et combattre la foi gréco-orthodoxe, et en même temps comme mise en lumière de certaines erreurs de l'Église de Rome, traduites du arabe, du grec et du latin, d'après le manuscrit original en langue chrétienne 1733. Il a été maintenant édité au frais et par les soins de sa béatitude, le père Kyriou-Kyr Sylvestros, le patriarche d'Antioche, sur les instances du glorieux et illustre prince, le vénéré dirigeant de la Moldavie, le seigneur Jean, fils du seigneur Nicolas, au temps où sa béatitude, le père Kyrios Nikiforos du Péloponnèse de Morée était le métropolite de ce pays, dans la ville protégée par Dieu de Iași, capitale de la Moldavie, en l'an chrétien 1742, en fait c'était 46, par les efforts des disciples du patriarche d'Antioche sous-mentionnés, le diacre Georges d'Alep et le frère Michel. Le patriarche Sylvestre veut souligner dans la préface du livre du patriarche Nectarios qu'il est venu en Moldavie pour imprimer des livres à Iași à l'aide des chrétiens arabophones, mais que les latins ont essayé de contrecarrer indirectement ces plans quand en 1745, il fut déposé pour une brève période, je cite, « Les ennemis de la foi en Christ, les latins, ont embrouillé nos plans en essayant de nous éloigner, poussés par leur père le diable, afin que nos bonnes intentions, l'édition des livres c'est-à-dire, ne se réalisent pas. Et c'est avec grande difficulté que nous sommes parvenus à éditer ce livre. » Citation fermée. Après la reprise du siège patriarcal en 1745, le patriarche Sylvestre est revenu à Iași, où la typographie arabe avait continué de travailler pendant qu'il était parti à Constantinople, de sorte qu'au mois de juillet 1746 étaient déjà imprimés 1500 exemplaires du susdit volume. Tout naturellement, à cette occasion, aussi le patriarche Sylvestre témoigne sa reconnaissance au prince de la Moldavie, Jean Mavrocordatos, grâce à l'aide duquel avait été fondée l'imprimerie arabe du monastère de Saint-Sabas de Iași, et qui avait pris à ses frais toutes les dépenses faites pour les livres parus ici entre 1745 et 1747. Comme on pouvait s'attendre, à l'impression du livre ont aidé deux arabophones, le diacre Georges d'Alep et le frère Michel, qui accompagnaient le patriarche d'Antioche. Ce volume de 1746 est composé de deux ouvrages appartenant à deux auteurs différents. Le premier titre appartient à l'ouvrage de Nectarios de Jérusalem et le second à un écrit de Stratios Argentis, dont nous allons discuter plus tard. Le premier titre du volume, appartenant au patriarche Nectarios, tel que nous enseigne la page de titre, ce nouvel ouvrage du patriarche a été écrit par son auteur en grec et en latin et puis traduit en arabe en 1733 d'après un manuscrit inédit. Le fait que ce nouvel écrit de Nectarios ait aussi une préface nous montre qu'il fut rédigé séparément de ses autres ouvrages. Dans l'introduction de l'auteur, qui constitue en fait le premier chapitre, le patriarche affirme qu'il n'a pas composé ces pages en guise de polémique, mais qu'il voulait seulement défendre l'Église de la division provoquée par ceux qui déchiraient son corps, comme l'avaient fait à force de mensonges et par orgueil les hérétiques d'autrefois. Il passe en revue les hérésiarques qui ont porté atteinte à l'Église du Christ depuis le début du christianisme et achève par la nouvelle doctrine erronée, celle du primat papal, considérant que, je cite, le désir de domination du pape est à la racine de toutes les hérésies qui en suivirent. Je ferme la citation. En même temps, il rappelle les auteurs orthodoxes qui ont combattu les erreurs latines, comme par exemple l'archevêque orthodoxe Nil de Thessalonique, ainsi que d'autres écrits lui appartenant où il a combattu le primat papal, dont celui rédigé en réponse au moine Pierre, édité après sa mort en 1682 à Iași. Traduit en arabe, cet ouvrage de Nectarios vient lui aussi en réaction aux ennuis provoqués par les franciscains aux orthodoxes des contrées respectives. L'ouvrage du patriarche Nectarios, traduit en arabe, comporte 3 parties et ne représente pas une reprise de celui de Iași de 1682, mais plutôt de l'édition latine de Londres, 1729, formée elle aussi de 3 parties. Les traducteurs arabes n'ont pas
Père
eu...
Policarp,
Oui.
excusez-moi, il vous reste que 2 minutes.
Bon,
Merci.
je résume.
Deux minutes.
Ici, c'était le contenu du livre. Comme vous avez pu déjà voir, il atteint le principal reproche que les orthodoxes font au latin. Aussi, il s'agissait d'un autre livre qui appartient au Stratios Argentis, un théologien ami du patriarche d'Alexandrie, Matthieu, et ami aussi de Sylvestre d'Antioche, qui a publié pour la première fois dans le monde en arabe les œuvres d'Argentis. Et aussi, cette œuvre donc, a été publiée à Iași en 1746. Je vais aussi mentionner un autre livre qui s'appelle La scène du Seigneur, qui a été rare, on l'a trouvé assez récemment, qui, comme vous pouvez entendre, se propose de combattre la pratique latine de faire la liturgie avec du levain. En fait, un autre ouvrage inédit, un ouvrage qui était connu que par des bibliographies, mais découvert récemment, c'est le recueil avec les décisions des conciles de Constantinople qui concernaient les chrétiens d'Antioche, les chrétiens de Levant. Et ce livre, on l'a trouvé le mois passé, et donc on va l'étudier. Pour conclure, le patriarche Sylvestre d'Antioche s'est remarqué au long de tout son archipastorat comme un hiérarque toujours préoccupé par la sorte des orthodoxes. Il a fait preuve d'un véritable zèle apostolique dans la confession et la sauvegarde de la foi orthodoxe en Antioche. Homme de grande érudition, il a travaillé lui-même aux réponses contre l'offensive latine en Syrie et grâce à sa haute stature morale, il a obtenu de l'aide sous différentes formes de la part des princes des pays roumains et d'autres personnalités de son temps. Son arme la plus puissante était sa confiance en l'aide de Dieu, manifestée dans la diffusion de la bonne nouvelle par les livres imprimés dans les typographies fondées par lui à Iași, Bucharest et à Beyrouth. Au milieu du XVIIIe siècle, l'imprimerie représentait déjà une solution rapide pour multiplier les textes qui pouvaient ainsi être facilement diffusés. Les démarches missionnaires des patriarches d'Antioche et notamment de Sylvestre, dans ce cas, ne nous sont pas connues dans tous les détails, de sorte que la poursuite des recherches s'impose pour mettre en lumière l'activité de ces véritables apôtres. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Archimandrite Chitulescu, for your presentation, for this detailed and in-depth study of this particular aspect of Patriarch Sylvestros' literary and theological work in such complicated and troubling times. Now we have a really detailed insight to these writings, and we look forward to the publication of your article to have more and more information. Now, shortly, the floor is open for some short and precise questions, if you would like. So, no questions, so we move on to our, thank you, Father Policarp, thank you very much. Here, there is a question, okay. So please, Father Porphyrios, yes, sit here and answer from here.
Father Polycarp, thank you for your rich and enriching presentation. Actually, I need to ask you, how would you describe this person, Silvestros, the man? And I'm asking specifically this question because Patriarch Sylvestros is one of the most attacked Orthodox Church personalities in our region and in that era, in historical sources and in the propagandas of many missionaries and historians. How would you describe Sylvestros, the person and the man of the church? Thank you.
Je vous remercie, mon père. Ce sont les faits qui parlent. De mon point de vue, à mon avis, Sylvestre est un saint parce que toute sa vie a été dédiée à confesser, à protéger l'orthodoxie dans son éparchie, dans son patriarcat. Et donc, il a fait tout ce qu'il a pu, le prix de sa vie, il a dépensé tout ce qu'il a eu, il a fait tous les efforts, toutes les interventions possibles pour conserver ces communautés. Donc, c'est un martyrage vraiment parce que dès le moment, dès sa élection comme patriarche, il a gagné le trône et avec le trône, il a gagné des souffrances, des voyages très fatigants et longs et dangereux. Il a gagné des humiliations, des soucis, des menaces. C'est ça qu'il a gagné. Ça a été sa vie, toute sa vie. Et c'est admirable, cette vie, son patriarcat qui durait presque 40 années, ou plus de 40 années, et qui ne s'est pas abattu de cette direction. Donc, il a conservé cette direction. Et pour cette raison, j'ai admiré cette conséquence, cette ligne qu'il a suivie sans s'abattre. Il a fait tout ce qu'il a pu. Donc, il peut être considéré comme un confesseur de l'Église.
Thank you very much. So now we move on to our third presentation according to our program. And we have an online contribution from now Dr. Mihai Cipau from Romania as well. He holds a PhD in church history from the University of Erlangen in Germany. He's a member of the academic committee of the Leibniz Institute of European History in Mainz. He's also member of the Romanian Academy in Bucharest. His topic for us today is the rediscovery of the Arabic Book of Psalms, published by Patriarch Sylvestros of Antioch in 1747 in Bucharest. Thank you, Professor Mihai, Tipau, for joining us. And please, now the floor is yours. Do you hear us?
Yes, thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Small corrections. The PhDs are from the University of Athens and the University of Bucharest. And I will try to now to share my screen.
Okay. So
just a moment.
He would like to. He would like to. Yes, he would. Yes.
Can you see the presentation?
Just a minute. It will show.
Can you see it now?
Now, yes.
Yes.
Now,
thank you very much.
If you want, you can put it in show format.
You can see it, the presentation.
Yes, we can. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Se vede, pune pe ecranul mare, Mihai. Se vede, dar pune pe tot ecranul.
So, in 1747, Patriarch Sylvestros of Antioch published an Arabic book of Psalms in the recently established printing press in Bucharest, located in the monastery of Saint Spiridon. The monastery was awarded to the Patriarchate of Antioch as a metochion by the ruling prince Constantine Mavrocordatos, and Silvestros initiated, among others, the rebuilding of its church. Silvestros wasn't at his first printing initiative. During the previous 2 years, as well as in early 1747, he had published 3 other books in another Arabic printing press located at the St. Sabas Monastery in Iași, in the Principality of Moldavia. The books were a liturgicon in 1745, republishing only the Arabic text of the 1701 bilingual Greek-Arabic Snagov edition of the former Patriarch of Antioch, Athanasios, printed by Anthimos the Iberian, a collegiate of 2 anti-Latin polemical treatises, one by Patriarch Nectarios of Jerusalem and other by Eustratius Argentis in 1746, and another book by Argentis on the Lord's Supper in 1747. Bucharest in 1747 was a well-established printing center. At least 3 printing presses were functioning in the city at various times in the previous decades. Beside the Romanian books, during the previous decades, books in Church Slavonic, Greek, and Arabic were published in the printing presses of Bucharest, especially the editions of the Greek books, such as the monumental History of Those Who Were Patriarchs in Jerusalem, 1715 on the title page, but perhaps finished a few years later, by Dositeos of Jerusalem, placed Bucharest on the map of printing centers known all around the Orthodox world and Western Europe. The books were often decorated with woodcuts produced by a number of artists. In 1747, Metropolitan of Ungar-Wallachia was Neophytos the Cretan, a close collaborator of Prince Constantine Mavrocordatos. Neophytos had an interest in publishing most of the liturgical books in use in the Orthodox Church in Romanian editions, in order to replace them by then obsolete Slavonic books. The aim was to publish all the liturgical books in the spoken language of the country. The Metropolitan notes prove he had a direct interest in supervising and managing all printing-related activities, supplies of printing material, typographical characters and paper, workers' wages, etc. There is no doubt that Silvestros met Neophytos in Bucharest, and there is a good probability that the two hierarchs exchanged ideas on various topics. Anyway, they maintained correspondence at least sporadically, as proved by a couple of letters sent by the Patriarch to the Metropolitan. Perhaps there is no coincidence that Sylvestros became interested in the technical aspects of the printing, such as the alloy for the characters or the making of typographical ink. He also seems to have developed a project to publish, beside the polemical literature, a series of liturgical books in Arabic, the spoken language in the Patriarchate of Antioch. He exposed this project in at least one letter addressed to the leaders of the Greek community in Venice, from whom he requested printing paper for the printing press he established later in Beirut. The Book of Psalms was translated into Arabic already in the 13th century by Abdallah ibn al-Fadl al-Antaki. As for the printed editions, in 1747, a recent one was that published in London in 1725 by the Society for Promotion of Christian Knowledge. The London edition was supervised by Salomon Negri, and according to the sources, the print run was very large, about 6,000 copies, 4 times the 1,500 copies of a book published by Silvestros in Iași. It is not clear, however, how many of these copies of the London Psalter actually reached the Orient. Also, it is not clear which was the involvement of the Orthodox Patriarchate of Antioch in ordering or distributing the books. Even if the relations of Sylvestros with the English representatives, especially with Roland Sherman, a key person in distributing Arabic books in the Levant, were good, it is equally unclear which was the attitude of the Orthodox Christian Arabs towards such books coming from a Protestant land. Before 1747, 2 other editions of the Psalter was published in 1735 and 1739 by the Shuer printing press run by Abdallah ibn Zahir. In this case, too, there were concerns about the content of the books, as the Roman Catholic influence on the book production of the Shuer press was well known. Anyway, in 1747, Sylvestros decided to publish an edition of the Book of Psalms in Arabic, endorsed by him as the Orthodox Patriarch of Antioch, and printed it in the new Arabic printing press in Bucharest. Although the print run is not stated, it can be estimated based on similar editions at 1,000, 1,500 copies. There is no information about how and when the copies of the Book of Psalms were shipped to present-day Syria and Lebanon to reach their intended public. In less than a century, however, the Book of Psalms, published by Sylvestros, became a bibliographical rarity. When in 1811, Christian Friedrich von Schnurrer published his Bibliotheca Arabica, he mentioned the Bucharest edition in the addenda of the book, mentioning the full title and citing a part of the foreword in the Arabic original and Latin translation. The information is published as a note to another Psalter, published in 1751 in Beirut. The author doesn't mention where he studied the copy of the 1747 book he described and where the book is located. Not long after the publication of the Bibliotheca Arabica, the origin of the information about the Bucharest Psalter was made public. Schnurrer's book was dedicated to the leading French Oriental scholar at the time, Antoine Isaac Sylvestre de Sacy. It was Sylvestre de Sacy who published a review of the Schnurrer's book in 1814, providing, among others, some details about the Book of Psalms of 1747, mentioning that he owned the book described by the German scholar. Sylvestre de Sacy mentions also that he received from Rousseau, the French consul in Aleppo, 2 rare books printed in the Aleppo printing press, the Evangeliarium of 1706 and the Liber Prophetiarium of 1708. He adds that he compared the characters of the books with the Liturgicon printed in 1701 in Bucharest and found them entirely different. After the 1814 book review published by de Sacy, it is presumable that the Bucharest Arabic Psalter remained in the French scholars' library. The fact is confirmed by the presence of the book in the catalogue of Sylvester de Sacy library, written by Romain Merlin before the sale of the books at auction in Paris in 1843. Merlin.
Excuse me for interrupting. We don't see the slides. Maybe there are more slides that should. Mihai, apasă pe slide-uri.
Just a moment.
I think we are left with the first slide only. Sorry for interrupting.
Just a moment, please. What can you see now?
Da, vedem o pagină. Vedem mai departe, da.
And now can you see it?
Somebody in the room can confirm to him that
Yes, we are seeing the
Yes.
presentation. Thank you very much.
Yes, we see it.
It is okay now? Thank you, sorry.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
So, Merlin gave a useful bibliographical description of the Arabic Book of Psalms of 1747 in his catalogue, which was intended to be a scientific tool and not a simple sale list. For the Arabic titles, Romain Merlin enlisted the help of two Arabic scholars, and the result was a much documented book in the field of early Arabic bibliography, as it is proved by the historical data and the list of the books printed in the Schuer press. Among the over 1,800 books described in the first volume, the Bucharest Book of Psalms, printed by Silvestros, attracted the attention of the editor. He mentioned it in the opening of the catalogue as one of the rarest books in the collection and one that could be of interest for every book lover. Which cabinet would close itself before the Bucharest Psalter, 1747, which Mr. de Sacy thought it was the only one in Europe. Merlin's description of the book is thorough, and he was the first scholar after Silvestro de Sacy to actually see the book. It is not sure that Schnurrer saw de Sacy's copy or described it from the notes sent to him by the French scholar. From this description, it is relevant for later identification of the copy, the mention of de Sacy's note written in Latin, the number of pages and the 4 missing pages, as well as the binding in the red half Moroccan. Merlin considers the copy of the book, even if incomplete, as a precious curiosity. He also praises the aesthetic qualities of the characters, affected, however, by the poor quality of printing. In the note, de Sacy mentions, among other, this copy sent to me from Bucharest, I suspect not without reason, that it is unique in Europe. After 1842, the trail went cold and the Book of Psalms printed in Bucharest by Sylvestros of Antioch was nowhere to be found. It can be assumed that it was sold at the action of 1843 and found its way in a yet unknown private library. Publications like the French Manuel de Libraire, while recording the book, give no indication about its price at the Sacy sale. All the books published by Silvestros in Iași, Bucharest, Beirut, and maybe elsewhere are rare, even if compared with the books printed by Athanasios Dabas in Snagov, Bucharest, and Aleppo, or those printed in the press established by Abdallah Zahir. No book printed by Silvestros remained until modern times in Romanian libraries. The only copy to be found today in the library of the Romanian Academy came in early 20th century from a source in Rome, consisting in 2 polemical books bound together, printed in Iași in 1746. Most of the major European libraries do not own also, with some notable exceptions, copies of the books printed by Silvestros. No library anywhere in the world owns a complete series of his publications. Even the process of identifying, tracing, describing them is a work in progress, often rewarded by unexpected surprises. At this stage, it is safe to say that even the actual number of titles printed by Patriarch Sylvestros is unknown. In the early 20th century, several mentions of the Bucharest Arabic Book of Psalms were made, most of them drawing on previous secondary literature. Two contributions, however, do mention a copy of the Bucharest Psalter in the library of the monastery of Saint Prophet Elias, Shuaia. With no copy available for research, the Book of Psalms printed in Bucharest remained an enigma, and even the actual functioning of the printing press established by Silvestros in the capital city of Wallachia was questioned. Worldwide online databases provide a large amount of data and are very useful for researchers for discovering and locating rare books for edition. This was also the case for the Psalter published by Patriarch Sylvestros in Bucharest in 1747. In a 2021 copy of the book, in 2021, a copy of the book was located in the Beinecke Library of the Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut, and shortly afterwards, an electronic copy was provided to the author by this institution. The surprise. Can you see the slides?
No, we are stuck at slide 11.
Can you see them now?
Yale University stamp. Great.
Yes, we are seeing it.
Yes. Just a moment. So the surprise was that this was apparently the same book once owned by Sylvester de Sacy and the one also used for Schnurr's description and Merlin Catalogue's entry. The proof was de Sacy handwritten note on the first page mentioned in the catalogue of his library. There is no information regarding the whereabouts of the book between 1842 and 1961. Further research may provide additional data on the subject and the previous owners. There is, however, a mystery surrounding the provenance of the copy of the Book of Psalms owned by Sylvester de Sacy. The source of the mystery is the contradictory accounts apparently provided by the French Oriental scholar as to the place from where he received the book. On the book itself, there is the Latin indication exemplar hoc Bucaresto ad me missum. This copy was sent to me from Bucharest. However, as we shall see, the same de Sacy wrote in a letter that he received a copy of the Psalter from Aleppo. There are two persons of interest in solving this enigma. Both were consuls of France, the one in Aleppo, the other in Bucharest, in the Principality of Wallachia. The renowned French scholar exchanged letters with both of them. Some of these letters are kept in the library of the Institute of France in Paris. There is no guarantee that all the letters exchanged by de Sacy with the two consuls are preserved in the aforementioned collection. The French consul in Aleppo, Jean-Baptiste Louis-Jacques-Joseph Rousseau, a member of the same extended family as the famous French philosopher, began to exchange letters with Sylvester de Sacy in 1806. De Sacy asked him to try to find Arabic books printed in Aleppo in 1706 for the Imperial Library in Paris. The answer of Rousseau was at least at first negative. He asked some learned people and none knew about books printed in Aleppo, and he thought it might be a confusion with the editions printed in Mount Lebanon. In his answer, de Sacy assures Rousseau that the printing press in Aleppo did exist, and 2 or 3 Arabic books were printed there, one being the Psalter. There is no other reference to these books, at least in the published parts of the correspondence of Sylvester de Sacy with Rousseau. However, it is clear that Rousseau kept in mind the French scholar's suggestions, and eventually he found several books printed in Aleppo and maybe elsewhere, as we shall see. Some of them he sent to Silvestro de Sacy at some point after 1808. As mentioned above, in 1814, de Sacy wrote that he received from Rousseau the Evangeliarium of 1706 and the Liber Prophetiarium of 1708, both printed in Aleppo. In the collection of manuscripts Rousseau tried to sell in 1817, there were, according to de Sacy, who acted as an intermediary, several books printed in Aleppo in the first years of the 18th century. The books were part of the Rousseau collection eventually bought for the Russian Empire by Count Uvarov. No book printed by Silvestros of Antioch was part of Rousseau's collection. The second person of interest in this matter is the French consul in Bucharest, Joseph Charles Ledoulle. Silvestros exchanged letters with him in 1811 and 1812, asking for information and copies of Arabic books printed by Athanasius and Sylvester of Antioch in Bucharest in 18th century. While Ledoulle answer provided the French scholar with little useful data, and the consul wasn't able to find any Arabic printed books in Bucharest, the Sacy letter is interesting. It mentions the fact that he just received from Aleppo, from Mr. Rousseau, the French general consul, a copy of the Arabic Psalter printed in 1747 in Bucharest. At first, the whole image seems to be clear. De Sacy got from Rousseau, then in Aleppo, a copy of Silvestros' Book of Psalms in 1811, or a short time before. This is apparently the copy he used to share information with Schnurrer for his Bibliotheca Arabica, and the one he refers to in his 1814 book review. There is a problem, however, in identifying it with the copy described by Merlin in the catalogue of de Sacy's library and to the copy in the Beinecke library of the Yale University. First of all, there is the note written and signed by de Sacy stating that the book was sent to him from Bucharest, exemplar hoc Bucaresto ad me missum, and the author thought it was the only one in Europe. Definitely in the 1811, the French scholar had only one copy of the book, and that was, according to his affirmations, sent to him by the consul Rousseau from Aleppo. In addition, de Sacy described the same copy as being in very bad shape and for mauvais état. The book in Beinecke library cannot be described as such, and compared to other similar books, it appears to be in a very good condition. Apart from some partial discoloration and the 4 missing pages, in fact, there are 4 missing folios from 2 different parts of the book, already noticed by de Sacy in his handwritten note and by Merlin in his catalogue, there are no significant condition issues. Another apparent discrepancy appears easier to solve. The red half Moroccan binding mentioned in the catalogue, it is in fact a narrow strip of leather, the rest of the book cover being in red cardboard. There is no simple explanation to the Sacy contradiction in regard to the copy of the 1747 Psalter Provenance. Maybe in the note written later in time, the French scholar made a mistake and wrote Bucharest for Aleppo, being confounded by the book's printing place. Or did he receive eventually, after 1812, another copy in better condition from Bucharest from the consul Ledoulle, who promised him more inquiries in Bucharest monastic libraries? And if so, why did he state that it was the only one in Europe? The solution might be...
Dr. Tsipau, just a kind reminder that you have 2 minutes left. Excuse me, Dr. Tsipau.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll skip some passages. But the quest for Silvestros' Book of Psalms was not over, and it led to another important discovery. During the research for the present study, I was able to locate and to study another copy of the book, and this time a complete one. It is located in a European, although not continental library. It turns out that Silvestro de Sacy's evaluation that he owned the only copy of the Bucharest Arabic Psalter in Europe wasn't correct after all. At some point in late 18th or early 19th century, a copy of the same book was acquired by George Spencer, 2nd Earl of Spencer. Spencer was a bibliophile and a collector with a special passion for rare editions of printed books. The main part of his library and the fine art collection were located at Althorp, the family residence. The main part of Earl Spencer's rare book library, some 40,000 books, was acquired in 1892 for the John Rylands Library in Manchester, now belonging to the University of Manchester. Searching the online catalog of the special collections of the Library of the University of Manchester provided further data as for the location of the book once in the Spencer Library, but no specific or detailed information about it. The catalog mentions a Psalterium Arabicum at the John Rylands Research Institute and Library Special Collections, a quarto published in Iași in 1690. As the mention in the catalog were intriguing, as they were not consistent with any known Arabic printed edition, only the direct study of the book would solve the enigma. The book turned out to be a copy of the 1747 Arabic Book of Psalms in very good condition, without missing pages, a book binding of brown leather and gilded leaves. For the time, the researchers have a full copy, including the beginning of the text after the figure of the king and prophet David, missing in the Beinecke library copy. The research of the books printed by Patriarch Sylvestros offered once again surprising results, and the whole image of his printing activity is yet to be completed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Cipau, for drawing the context and the relevance of this publication, this precious work that reflects the vivid tradition of Antioch since the times of Abdallah ben Fadl Antaki until the time of Patriarch Sylvestros, and relating to us the whole rediscovery of this precious book and where it is available for us. So we are looking forward again to your publication. I have to announce to the people, to the presence here, that we will delay our fourth presentation for the afternoon. So this is our last presentation. This is proposed by Father the Dean, and also with the acceptance of our presentator, dear Father Spiridon. So we have a short time for questions, if there are any questions. Well, I would use just the possibility to ask, because it is so important, this book about the Bible and the book of Psalms. I would like to know more about the distribution of this book. You mentioned about 1,000 copies done in the printing, the last printing in 1747, if I remember well. But how well were these books distributed, since you said that no copy stayed in Bucharest, and to whom was this book distributed?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. I think the print run was around 1,500 copies, if we take the example of other books published by Silvestros in Iași. And we do have information about books sent to the Patriarchate of Alexandria in Egypt. But these books were sent for the Antiochian merchants who were there in Alexandria and elsewhere in Egypt, and for the Arabic-speaking Orthodox in Egypt. But in the same letter, it is a letter of Patriarch Sylvester addressed to the Patriarch of Alexandria. Sylvester expressed his fears that the books could be burned by his enemies, by the Latino-Frones, the Catholic-minded, so to speak. So he inquired and asked the Patriarch of Alexandria if the books reached their destination.
So thank you very much. Any other question?
Thank you.
Father Jack, any announcement?
An announcement about the round table this evening. اليوم مساء في بالنهاية نص ساعة على أقصى حد نوع من طاولة مستديرة يشاركوا فيها كل الأساتذة الحاضرين وكل الأساتذة يلي معنا أونلاين وبيقدروا يكونوا موجودين حتى يكون في نوع من نقاش ناخد صورة عامة على كل الأمور اللي مرقت معنا. وإذا عندكم أي سؤال أصحاب السيادة والحضور الكرام تسألوا السؤال تقدروا تاخدوا عليه جواب من عدة أشخاص من عدة وجهات نظر. هلا وقت الغداء هلا.
Okay.
رجع الغداء.
So thank you to the participants online and to everyone. See you in the afternoon at 4 p.m. Thank you. شكرا كثير. Thank you.
شكرا.